morning again. It's Monday, November 8th, 2021. It's 9:30 a.m. And our first item of business is our pledge and invocation led by Commissioner Hale. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Father, come together today to thank you for another day on this earth, keeping us safe and blessing us as we go into the future. And keep our armed forces and men in the state as they keep us safe here at home. And grant us the wisdom to make great decisions for the county as we go into the future. These and other blessings we pray in your name.
Amen.
First item we have is to approve the minutes of our regular meetings of November 25th, 2021, our special meeting of October 22nd, 2021, and October 29th, 2021, and a special call meeting on October 27th, 2021. I hear a motion that we approve those minutes as written. Make the motion. Motion made by Commissioner Cornell. Do I hear a second? Second by Commissioner King. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right. I think I'm going to skip down to our non-county people, so that would go down to Rocket Aviation. And Stacy's here with us this morning. She presented a contract to be awarded to Little Manufacturing for the graphic seal project. I'll let her talk about that.
Good morning.
We want it.
We are working on our 2021 crack seal project out at the airport, and our engineering firm, Hale, went out for bids. We received one bid from Little Manufacturing in the amount of $77,120. We have in our budget $100,000 to do this project. Our representative, Michael Cruising with Hale, said that we would visit with Little Manufacturing about increasing the bid amount so we can extend our budget to whatever the legal amount is without going for other bids. And so I'm requesting that you approve the contract entering into the airport in Sonoma County with Little Manufacturing and to do the crack seal for 2021 and authorize the judge to sign the contract, which I don't have yet. We're supposed to have it by now, but I'm not sure what the holdup is, but I will follow up with that today.
Stacy, you know when the proposal will start this work?
As soon, yeah, and Kenny, just as soon as they can. We had a couple of extensions there on the bid process, so we were hoping, to get started in November and be finished up around the 1st of December.
All right. Any other questions of Stacy? Do I hear a motion to approve this contract in the amount of $77,120 with Little Manufacturing and authorize me to sign that contract? Motion made by Commissioner Daniel. Do I hear a second? I'll second. Second by Commissioner Kelly. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right. Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you.
All right. Carla, I guess we'll go ahead and since we've had the lady on.
She's not on.
Oh, is she not there?
Yeah, I disconnected it.
Okay, let's wait.
I'll go ahead and start trying to connect.
Okay, let's go ahead and proceed. Let's go to meeting. Garcia. Item number 9. Morning, Benny.
Good morning, how are you?
Good. How are you, sir?
Good. That is for my southeast overhead door. It's been worked on probably 4 times in the past 2 years. And Danny checked it the other day, said those springs were really weak. And that door during the stock show was used a lot. If that thing goes down, it's hard to get parts because of COVID. So it's better roll those parts if you can, if you be on the safe side. So that's why I was asking for approval.
Okay. So, these are the springs for the overhead door on the southeast
Yes, sir.
door, and the amount is $1,062.50.
It's actually 900. She added a service call on there.
Okay.
Let's look at this.
Will this include the labor to install those springs, or
No, sir.
that's just the springs?
This is springs.
And the service call for coming out, and did you say how long it would take to get those springs?
He told me it was from 2 months to 4 months. It could be as little as one if they have them. You know, shipping is real hard right now. I showed the Commissioner Daniel, he was there the other day.
Did you check to see if anybody else might have some in stock?
Yes, sir. Nobody has them. Special order.
I do have an itemized list here from Garcia overhead door. The springs are $900, or actually $450, because there's two of them. And then he listed labor on here at $142.50, mileage at $15, and lube at $5, for a total of $1,062.50.
So it doesn't.
Yeah, so what he has here, so, do I hear a motion, or do you have any other questions? Benny?
Are you just paying the, are you asking to pay the 900 up front just to order? Or are you
Yes,
going
sir.
to pay everything up front?
We could pay 900 to order.
I'd say our normal practice is not pay till everything's done,
Right.
so I'd say let's go ahead and do 900 for the materials, and that way we can go ahead and get that done, and then we can come back later and pay the labor and other things and so forth. Okay, so do I hear a motion to approve the purchase of two of these springs at the price of $450 for a total of $900, and these will be purchased by Garcia Overhead Door LLC. Motion made by Commissioner Daniel. Do I hear a second? Second by Commissioner Kelly. Any other questions or discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed? All right. Thank you, sir. Let's see here. Latrice, you want to do yours?
Okay, good morning.
Good morning,
Just
Mark.
asking, y'all for us to canvass the constitutional amendment election. The totals are gonna be kind of on every other page, okay? But we had 989 of the 18,362 folks come out and vote, for a total of 5.39% of the registered voters. Actually, early voting was real slow. Election day was really pretty busy. We were kind of surprised. So anyway, that's what we had most of the turnout. So we'll just start with Proposition 1. We had 830 votes for, 153 votes against, for a total of 983 votes. And I won't go on down, there's undervotes, all those kind of things, but anyway, that's the totals on that. Proposition number 2. For 606, against 368, for a total of 974. Proposition number 3. For 835 votes, against 150 votes, for a total of 985. Proposition number 4. For 633, against 327, for a total of 916. Proposition number 5. For 623, against 339, for a total of 962. Proposition 6, for 888, against 86, for a total of 974. Proposition number 7, 912 for, 68 against, for a total of 980. Proposition number 8, 915 for, 61 against, for a total of 976.
Any questions of Latrice about the constitutional amendment election? If not, do I hear a motion to canvass the 2021 constitutional amendment election? Motion made by Commissioner Hale. Do I hear a second? Second by Commissioner King. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Carla, is that lady ready?
Yep.
We'll now go to the county attorney line item. Proceed. Presentation for representative of the attorney general's office about the Texas global opioid settlement. We'll have discussion with her. You'll be able to answer any or ask any questions, but there'll be no action taken on this item.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, let me get okay.
You want us to?
Yes.
Are you ready for us?
Yes, we are.
Okay, great. Sorry, I wasn't sure. Hello, my name is Amanda Sanders. Thank you for having us come to your commissioners meeting today. I'm the Director of Outreach for the Texas Attorney General's Office, and I'm joined here with my colleague, Brian King, in our Dallas office, for Consumer Protection Division. Brian's going to lead the presentation, but I just wanted to open it up and give a little background on why we are involved in this opioid litigation settlement and what it means for Texas. So if you're not familiar with it, first of all, I guess we should backtrack. The opioids crisis, as you know, was kind of in the mainstream news a few years ago, but even though we don't hear about it as much anymore in the news, it is still something that's deeply affecting our state today. Just in the last year, Texas had increased in drug overdose deaths by nearly 32%, which was driven primarily by prescription opioid overdose deaths. We know it's still an issue in our communities. We know that many cities and counties have felt the financial impact of this crisis and are needing resources to abate it and to provide healing and options for the constituents in their communities. And so we have been involved in a number of litigation and still are involved in several other litigation and investigations of companies that manufacture or provide opioid drugs. And we have been able to reach a settlement with three of the major distributors of opioid drugs and one major opioid manufacturer, which is Johnson & Johnson. And this settlement is global, meaning that it is across the whole nation. It's a $26 billion settlement. It's divided into two. The distributors portion, as you can see, is $21 billion nationwide, and Johnson & Johnson's is $5 billion. It's also including some injunctive relief that's changing how we operate as far as how manufacturers and distributors communicate and operate, and hopefully bring not make this crisis continue on, which we'll get to that in a little bit. But we are set to receive as much as $1.5 billion for our state from this settlement. And we have agreed to join onto it, and the legislature, we'll get into this a little bit later too, but they had to codify this, and it was a part of a bill in the first session of this year, which was Senate Bill 1827, which did not waive any subdivisions rights to sue these companies. And so in order for this to go through, we need the maximum joinder support of every single subdivision, which is counties and cities, to sign on to the settlement, which the deadline for that is January 2nd. So I'm gonna turn this over to Brian to kind of get into the weeds of it, and I'll drive the PowerPoint and chime in and feel free, if you guys have questions, feel free to ask them as we're going through this, and we'd be happy to also take them at the end too. Brian?
Okay, thanks, Amanda. And as Amanda mentioned, yeah, this is the injunctive relief for the settlement in reference to what the AG's office, along with other states, have been able to do is that we've had Johnson & Johnson agree to get out of the opioid business for at least 10 years. And in reference to the distributors, they solved a major problem with the opioid industry by having an overseeing board, if you would, call it that, but more so a clearinghouse that would look at suspicious orders. I mean, if you think about different opioids that may be prescribed to a certain region, a certain area, the clearinghouse could identify these areas that have a heavy volume of opioids going to those regions, and potentially combat the use of common opioids in different regions, not only in the state but also around the nation as well. And of course, at the bottom of the last bullet point talks about them detecting suspicious orders. So they'll create a framework of that, and that's what we were able to get the settlement. And that's a step forward. So we look forward to how this affects everything else. Now, in reference to the opioid settlement and the actual breakdown of the $1.5 billion model that Amanda mentioned, the distributors will pay over $1.17 billion for that 18-year timeline. Now, I do want to ask Amanda, did you go over the Johnson & Johnson update in reference to the upfront payments?
We have not. I don't think we've updated for this.
Okay.
For
Well,
free,
I'm
yeah.
going to say that instead of the, for the county, instead of the $268 million for being distributed over 9 years, those payments will actually be upfront, and that's the most up-to-date settlement that we have. In reference to the date and timeline, of course, contact us for more information, but I do want to tell you that the update is that those payments from Johnson & Johnson will be upfront. In reference to the base and incentive payments, this is important because the base payments are received no matter how many subdivisions join. But in reference to the incentive, as Amanda mentioned, participation is vital to the incentive payment. So the more participation we have from subdivisions, the more likely we are to see those incentive payments come in as well. And in reference to those subdivisions that decide to join this settlement, and do later, the payments that they would receive from the settlement will be suspended. And based on the resolution of the lawsuit that subdivision brings, those payments that were received from the settlement will potentially be offset. And honestly, that's only if the subdivision is able to actually have a K curve. Because right now, not a lot of courts are having, or I guess you could say hearing cases are giving cities and counties their day in court. Right now, the Dallas County and Bear County have the most court cases that are being watched. And in reference to other subdivisions who do, it's not promised that you'll be able to have your day in court and potentially never see money from the settlement that could be offset. So it's good to sign on, is what I'm saying, so you can see the most money come directly to your county and city. And the ultimate goal, of course, to bring the most money to Texas, and this is based on the $1.5 billion model that we discussed. I will say it's important to know that even if your county, or just that of counties that are under 10,000 in population, those counties are still accounted for. So the $1.5 billion, doesn't X out in the county. Every county, city, hospital, school district is accounted for in reference to how the opioid crisis affects them. And right now, as I said, the participation is the most important thing to have among the political subdivisions. And on the, and have the settlement dollars flowing to Texas. This is simple funnel. So Texas, the state and participating subdivision will get a direct payment, and then there's an abatement program from the opioid council who will have more information on them as time goes on. Amanda, would you like to add anything about the opioid council?
We have appointed 2 members. One was from the Collin County area. She's a healthcare provider, and then the other was a health district employee, also a healthcare provider as well, from Odessa, Midland area. And so part of the bill 1827 was, kind of codifying how this settlement would roll out, and we'll show you the exact allocations here soon, but there is a direct payment that will be coming to you, and then the rest of it will be put into a fund that you can apply for to have additional funding. And that funding will be overseen by the Opioid Abatement Council. It's made up, I think, of 13 members, 1 presiding officer. It's appointed by the governor, the lieutenant governor, our office, the health department, is all appointing people across the state to oversee this. And they're all people who have really had a hand in abating the crisis and know what the needs are. And they're coming from all over the state. And we wanted to make sure that there was some rural representation in there, because we do not want, as we know that big cities have been affected by this, particularly, Dallas and Bear County. We do know that the harm is everywhere, and we need equal representation, and so they'll be overseeing that grant process. And I believe they have not formally met yet, but we're suspecting within the new year those rules will be adopted as to how they will be going about, what the application process looks like. And from what we've heard is, we know a lot of rural counties want us to make sure that, it's not dependent on who their grant writer is. And so, again, we're wanting to make sure this is equal to everyone. And you'll see, we'll show this in a second, but it's not, you're actually grouped into health regions of how much you can apply for that grant. And we'll get to that in a second, but just so you know how that opioid council is, they're overseeing the second portion of the funding from the settlement.
And as Amanda mentioned, this is basically what she described in reference to the Senate Bill 1827 that was recently enacted, and in reference to the 85% of the funds used up to the opioid abatement trust, which would be overseen by the opioid council. And this is an estimate, once again, based on the $1.5 billion model that we have, in which Hale County will receive payment from the 3 distributors in the amount of $78,556.18, and then Johnson & Johnson will have their upfront payment, the estimated amount of $18,056.03, and then total amount a little bit over $96,000 comes directly to the county. And this is money that you wouldn't have to do anything else but sign on and execute the technical term sheet to
And there will be no state oversight on this funding. You're supposed to, just like you said, all you have to do is sign on to it to receive this money. But the only thing would be to, mark it as for opioid-related purposes in your accounting, division, in your normal accounting procedures, but it would not have any requirement of reporting this back to the state of how you used it. And that's just the direct payment.
And this slide talks about the actual abatement funding that is distributed by region. As Amanda mentioned, this region 12, as you see in the box, this is one of the Health and Human Services Commission regions. So there are a lot of counties, as you see in the slide. And the reason that we have this model is that the money will be distributed to the region on an equitable basis, instead of 1 or 2 counties taking most or if not all of the money. So it will operate as a grant program, and I'm sure Amanda can give more information.
Right, and Right, so this is the portion I was talking about where the opioid abatement council will oversee this spending. This is, you'll get the direct $96,000 payment. And then you have the ability to apply for up to 28.9 million through the abatement council. And a lot of counties are teaming up together to apply for this together. Again, this will be something where, you know, they're looking at potentially doing like a block application. You know, you just apply for it. You don't have to explain the harm in your particular community because we know that there's harm everywhere. And so that's something that we are communicating with the comptrollers. They're creating the rules for, you know, how they will go about receiving applications for this money. But you'll have the 96,000 and then you'll have up to this total amount that you can work with these other counties. You can also, I know some COGs had asked if they had access. They're not a subdivision technically by the terms of the settlement, but you could work with your COG to, you know, if there's a program that they would want to put together, or maybe there's a medical facility in your community that is not a litigating subdivision, you know, or not a health district, it's a private entity. You could apply for it on their behalf and work with them to get this funding. So it's pretty flexible. And again, we'll see more of those rules come out at the beginning of the year.
And the next few slides deal with general timeline that our office has, you know, worked to the extent of the opioid crisis and how to combat the crisis. So starting at the top, as you see, in September 2017, AG Paxton, along with other states, decided to investigate, and the companies that manufacture and distribute opioids to the public. And in September of 2019, Johnson & Johnson was one of those companies that we looked at going back up to May 2018. Purdue Pharma, they were really a big company that we actually found out that, you know, they misrepresented the risk of opioid addiction to patients. And leading on from Purdue Pharma, they actually filed for bankruptcy 1 year from the start of our investigation. And what's important about Purdue bankruptcy is that a lot of the money that would have, you know, been seen at least by subdivisions in the state of Texas, that actually went towards litigation. So a lot of that money that essentially, you know, addressed the opioid crisis went to bankruptcy attorneys, litigation fees, and I'm sure other amounts I can't think of. But I would say that what we're attempting to avoid with this settlement in efforts to at least get some money to the cities, the hospital districts, school districts that have actually been affected by this, instead of, you know, the money being tied up through litigation, such as bankruptcy. And on the next slide, Mallinckrodt is also a big manufacturer alongside Johnson & Johnson. And with their settlement, I mean, it's similar to the trust fund that we're talking about, the opioid abatement trust fund. But in their case, I mean, they were just as bad as Johnson & Johnson, and received $1.6 billion in cash to the trust. But what's good is that in our current settlement today is that, I mean, you see the $1.6 billion that, you know, is roughly the amount that's going to Texas, but as a whole, I mean, you saw the $26 billion that's coming from everybody. So you can see that we, you know, made a lot of progress from February 2020 to bring more money into the state, and that's to address the opioid crisis. And in May 13th, these are the defendants that are actually not lawsuit, settlement that we're discussing today. And this is when we jumped on the investigation process. Look at them, and then I would say at the top of this slide, in February of 2021, McKinsey was a major consulting firm. They consulted the company, you know, to basically how they should market the opioids, how they should sell them to the public, and we were able to, you know, get a settlement from them in the amount of $5.3 million in terms of relief. And at the bottom, you see the settlement that we're discussing today, which is the announcement that APAC made in the at the beginning of this presentation. And the next steps are to sign on to the settlement and execute releases of plans and execute the second premises. And we do have those forms on our website. that we'll provide. It's actually last page of this slide, not last page of this presentation, but most importantly, the deadline is January 2nd, 2022. And so it's good to, that we're at least like to see you now as opposed to, January 1 or December 30th. And that we can have time to people that look at the documents and be able to time on that timely fashion.
And just to clarify, this does not execute your release of claims to these companies for any other issues that may come up. This is just releasing this now. I basically saying, we haven't sued you on the opioid related issue, and we're not going to sue you on the opioid related issue. We're just gonna sign on to the settlement. But, if they were to come up with another issue later on, this is not a full release of claims. And just for your reference, we've had, right now, we have received sign-on and received their documentation for 190 subdivision. Sign-on were pending receiving their documents 14, and then those who have verbally committed have it on their calendar to sign on is 136. So we have about 340 subdivisions across the state of Texas, cities, counties, combined that have agreed to sign this on. And again, the deadline's January. I know typically this would be something that you would vote on and commissioners court for the county and or city council. However, you would formally adopt the Texas term sheet and release the claims and sign on to the settlement. And that's really it for this case. And if there's any questions, we'd be happy to take them. I'll show you kind of a list right now of these are the confirmed sign-ons. As of last week, I think this has actually even grown since then. These are just a handful of I think when we put this PowerPoint together mid last week, I think we've had some more since Friday. But this is you can see the confirmed list on our website, texasattorneygeneral.gov/global opioid settlement. If you have any questions, and also if you decide to sign on and you need to send the documentation, please email that opioids email. It's monitored by our attorneys who have been very hands-on in this case. They're very quick to respond. And you can find all the documentation, even the a sample resolution on that website right there. And any questions, and then where you would send that documentation to, again, that opioids email listed right there.
All right. Well, thank you for the presentation. At this time, is there anyone on the court or in the audience that have any questions?
Can we get a copy of that PowerPoint?
Joe has it. It's attached to the email. And
Okay.
they all have
So you
one.
can send it to
Okay, we have a copy of the PowerPoint, so we needed that for our minutes, but thank y'all for being here today. I apologize for the delay, and we'll work through this process with our county attorney. I think he's been in touch with y'all and with y'all, so like I say, appreciate you being here today and explaining this to us.
Absolutely. Let us know if you have any questions.
All right, thank y'all. Oh, yeah. All right, as I said before we sit down, there'll be no action on that. That was just for our information, so. We'll go back to the top of our meeting, and hear from the auditor.
Good morning.
Morning.
I have several line item transfers. The first one is going to be from the treasurer's office from her conference seminars and dues of $718. From her advertisements, $88.98, and her bonds, $191. To her office equipment for $997.98.
All right, let's see, the current request from the treasurer's office in the amount of $997.98 into her office equipment.
997.
997. 98 cents into her office equipment. 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 997. 98 cents into her office second by Commissioner Kelly. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed?
My next one is for the tax office, from his office supplies of $262.52 to his conference seminars and dues for $262.52.
All right. Further, transfer request in the amount of $262.52 from office supplies into conference seminars and dues. Do I hear a motion to approve that?
I'll make the motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Hale. Do I hear a second? Second by Commissioner King. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed?
My next line item transfer is for precinct 2 from his fuel of $10,000 to his equipment maintenance for $10,000.
All right. Further request from precinct 2 for $10,000 from fuel, from fuel into preventive maintenance. Do I hear a motion to approve that? Motion made by Commissioner Kelly. Do I hear a second? Second by Commissioner Purnell. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed?
The last line item transfer I have is for non-department contingency fund of $264.63 to the non-departmental miscellaneous expense for $264.63.
Okay. So non-departmental contingency fund to non-departmental miscellaneous expense in the amount of $264.63. Do I hear a motion to approve that? Motion made by Commissioner King. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Daniel. Any discussion? None. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed?
My next item is to discuss and approve the purchase of a Dell Inspiron 27-inch touchscreen all-in-one computer in the amount of $1,349.99 and the purchase of Microsoft 365 Personal of 15-month subscription in the amount of $49.99 for the special projects coordinator to be paid for out of the computer department.
Okay. So this is a computer that Jesse had received, and so do I hear a motion to approve the purchase of that computer and the Microsoft subscription for 15 months? Make the motion. Motion made by Commissioner Hale. Do I hear a second? Second by Commissioner Kelly. Any discussion?
And just for your information, it has already been paid for, but I will be doing a journal entry to move it from his budget into the computer department due to the fact that this wasn't a budgeted item, and so his funds are very low.
Judge, who's second?
Kelly.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed?
That's all I have, thank
Thank
you.
you, ma'am. Next item will be our treasurer.
I don't have anything today, Judge. Thank you.
Next item will be county judges. I presented on Friday the Petersburg EMS financial and run report for September 2021. Do I hear a motion to accept that report? Motion made by Commissioner Daniel. Do I hear a second? Second by Commissioner Kelly. Any discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed? Likewise, on the health center EMS financial report for the month of October, we read those on Friday. Do I hear a motion to approve that?
I make the motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Hale. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Daniel. Any other discussion? Safety Committee. Form in here. This comes from the legislature, out of Public Safety, Chapter 351, Senate Bill 476. The county will name a county adult sexual assault response team. And I would say that this committee will be made up from a prosecutor from the district attorney's office, the sheriff, Chief Watson and Manuel Valderas from the city of Plainview. It also includes the county's largest police department and other stakeholders as appointed by Commissioners Court. My recommendation is to appoint the ones I just listed, in addition to a representative from the Crisis Center here in Plainview. I did talk to them Friday, and rather than name a specific individual, they just said if I could name a member of their team. The issue is that we have to name them and they have to have a meeting before December 1st of this year. And so at that meeting, they can establish more guidelines, more rules, and possibly more shareholders they would like to see on the committee, and we can address that at that time. For this morning, what I need us to do is to approve this committee to include the district attorney's office, the sheriff, Plainview Police Department, and the Crisis Center. So now I hear a motion to approve that committee. I'll make a motion. Motion made by Commissioner Kelly. Do I hear a second? Second by Commissioner King. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed? The next item I have is to review and allow the county judge to sign a cooperative agreement with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service in Hale County. I believe that I provided that to Jim for his guidance, and I can't remember if he provided back an answer. So what I'm asking this morning is for us to approve this and allow me to sign it, but be aware that I will not sign it until I have visited with Jim tonight. And so I did see Michael Clausen the other day, and he said it's just a standard agreement, a cooperative agreement that we've signed over the years before. And so can I hear a motion to approve that agreement and allow me to sign it? Motion made by Commissioner Daniel. Do I hear a second? Second by Commissioner Kelly. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. All those against? The next one is our, from the Texas Department of Transportation, our allotment of materials that are provided to the county by TxDOT. What that amount is. What was it?
I wrote down 24,683.
Okay, $24,683 of material that Hale County will receive from TxDOT. Do I hear a motion to accept that allotment of materials? Motion made by Commissioner Cornell.
And this is also something.
Okay. And do I hear a second? Second by Commissioner
It's
King.
all that material, keep stored at the airport, for the most part.
Which is $24,683, and it will be made available to Hale County for the fiscal year of 2022. Any other discussion? We've had a motion and a second, so all those in favor say aye. All those against? All right. And then the last item I have for approval of 2 properties in Abernathy. You see the legal descriptions there. I believe these are just coming up for bid. And so that first one, you see the legal description at 1108 4th Street, Abernathy. Hear a motion to approve that property to be listed. Motion made by Commissioner King. Hear a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Daniel. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. The second property, legal description, is South 42 feet, Lot 6, Block 15, in the original town of Abernathy, Hale County. Hear a motion to approve the listing of that property. Motion made by Commissioner Hale. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Kelly. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed? And then I'll go ahead and Evelyn Carroll was here earlier, but she needed to leave. She was here to represent the Red Rage Booster Club. She was asking that we pay the fees for the use of the Ollie Liner Center tonight for the banquet. She told me that she would get with Mr. Garcia and set up a date for that banquet. But she was here this morning just to ask that we waive the fees for that. I did say this was a sports banquet the other day, but she told me that the Red Rage Booster Club represents the football team, the cross-country team, the track team, and the powerlifting team. And so, I guess the other sports might have a separate banquet. So, I hear a motion to allow the Red Rage Booster Club to use the Ollie Liner Center in banquet. Motion made by Commissioner Kelly. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Daniel. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed? All right. I believe that takes us down to Jesse.
Good morning.
Howdy.
Yes. Try this one more time. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about the lights at the Justice Center that weren't working, all the parking lot lights. And so, based on y'all's guidance, I received one bid from one electric company for $9,475. Y'all's guidance was to get another one. Went to another electric company, and they're still working on it. So, in essence, I don't have the second bid at this time. We'll just have to. As much as I think we need lights right away because of that, like having programs in the evening, it looks like we just have to wait on that one.
Okay, we'll table that issue till our next meeting.
Yes, sir. The second one is on Johnson Controls, and that's a subject that I've been bringing up every time apparently. Johnson Controls, I've called them to come do their annual inspection on the boiler because it was time to turn the boiler on for winter time. They came November the 2nd, made an appointment. They sent 2 people down here. One worked on the boiler, assured me that it's working good. When it reaches a certain temperature, the heater will come on. Everything's working fine. The second guy that showed up was to look at the control panel, and he had a few issues with it. He explained it to me, and instead of trying to explain everything to you, it's a lot easier to show you what he's talking about. So what I did was I made copies. I'll just pass that through. I made one for the county clerk and for the auditor also. That's the control panel that controls everything. whether you call those fuses or breakers, I'm not really sure. The first page, he said he replaced one of them, and I started with one of them to show you what I'm talking about. He replaced one of those at about $150 plus or minus. Looks like we might have to replace some more. We'll have to keep an eye on them, just wanted to make you aware of that. And on the second page is, it's at the bottom, and he replaced one of those also that had gone bad. And he said we probably need to replace the other two sometime real soon to make sure everything works great. And it's a lot easier to show you pictures than it is to tell you exactly what he was talking about. If any of y'all want to go down to the basement, I'd be glad to show you exactly what he's referring to. And he also found another little battery that operates, and he's gonna ship that battery to me. And the reason I point this out to you is that annual inspection is part of the contract. All this other extras that he came up with, I don't know if we're gonna be charged for them or not, and I will keep a close eye on that, okay? The second thing they also discovered was we have two air compressors down there. One of them had gone bad on us, and I'm gonna distribute the pictures of the air compressors so you'll know what I'm talking about, and I'll elaborate on it. So what it comes out to is that air compressor went bad on us, and he said we could replace the entire compressor, but the second page shows just the compressor head. You could replace that, just the compressor head. So I asked him for a bid on it. He sent one to me right away, which I gave y'all a copy Friday. And I believe, and I don't have those numbers in front of me. Here we go. Maybe I can clear them on there. Basically, it's $2,500 for the compressor head and $5,000 something for the entire compressor. So, after thinking about it, I got to doing some research trying to figure out where that air compressor had come from. Finally, late Friday, I figured out it came from Caprock. I went over to Caprock Plumbing and found the invoice on that we have right now that went bad on us, and we paid $2,400 for it.
For the total compressor.
Yes, sir. And that's their understanding so far. Tillman is going to do some more research, and we installed that March of 2020, so it's not very old. We want to see if we have a warranty on it. Or he said it might be one that he had already replaced under warranty, but when he figures that out, $2,400 for a full compressor versus $5,000 something. But that's, so, my question to y'all is, once I get that information from Caprock, whether it's under warranty, you want me to wait until the next commissioner's, or you want me to go ahead and replace that? It should be a lot less.
Yeah, Jesse, I don't see this on the agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir.
Yeah, the only thing I have on the agenda is further discussion on the actuators.
Okay.
And so we'll need to probably look at this.
That was a last minute thing, yes, sir, you're absolutely right,
Next
Friday
time,
when I
so-
discovered that, okay.
Like I said, we can't.
I stand corrected.
Decide that, so if you will, thank you for the information, we'll have to do something, but as far as our agenda, I don't, if you would, go to the actuator.
Okay, perfect. Yes, sir. On the actuators, so, and that's another ongoing process. I have a bid. I had asked Johnson Controls for a bid on that actuator. I showed it to him, took a picture of it. They sent me a bid that I had submitted to y'all for $5,891. And then y'all asked me to go to another business, and I got a bid for $733. So I got to thinking $5,891 was way too much money. What they had done was they actually just submitted to me a bid that they had submitted several months before for the judge's office upstairs. And that included some other work that they were gonna do to the water. So I called Johnson Controls and said, that's not the bid I requested. I need it just for the actuator in the basement. And so 15 days later, 4 phone calls later, I still have yet to receive a bid from them. My question to the court is, shall I proceed with $733 bid on it since they have, in so many words, haven't submitted a bid, or do I need to wait for their bid?
I would say go ahead, personally, and go ahead and have it fixed. I hadn't got you a bid or proposal for now, winter's coming on.
Yes, sir. And that is from Quality there, Larry Williams.
Yeah, I'd put in the form of a motion that we go ahead and allow Quality Air to perform that work.
Yes, sir.
Have a motion, do I hear a second? Second by Commissioner Hale. Any other questions or discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, and then the next one is the discussion on the revised contract. Communication.
Yes, sir. That's another ongoing project. So basically what it all boiled down to was they had changed the rates on us. I had added some panic buttons to the juvenile probation building, the JJAP, and to indigent care. And got contracts. So finally, to make it all right, I contacted Professional Alarm System and I said, hey, I don't think we have contracts for all the other places. So what I've done here is summarized it for you. I'm gonna submit to you. So that'll kind of help you out a whole lot. I asked Professional Alarm Systems to just submit to me 8 contracts, and it's covered in that handout that I just gave you. Seven of them are for panic buttons. The courthouse has panic buttons and the fire alarm system with it. It includes the rates, monthly rates to be paid on a quarterly basis. The term of the contract, PASS says they don't do a term. They don't even call it a contract. They just basically say anytime you want to quit us, you can quit us. So where it says term, it's innate. But it does include what we're paying monthly to be paid on a quarterly basis. And so based on recommendations from Jim Terry, our county attorney, then when I submit the contracts to y'all and when they're approved, then the contracts will just be signed, approved and signed by the judge. This is the back of the contract. And basically, one for everybody, that back copy says, mark out number 13, the indemnification costs. And then that second page of that shows, you'll just pass those on. Okay. And I think once we do all this, we'll be righteous and we'll never talk.
Sure.
Okay, if I'm gonna have to read this, y'all gonna have to give me some
No.
glasses.
It's stronger.
The back of the contract, once it's approved and signed, we're gonna mark out number 13, and then we're gonna, the second page shows that non-appropriations clause that Jim Terry wanted on it, and basically says, pursue us, we're not.
Okay.
So, yes, sir.
Go ahead.
I have the contracts now.
Okay. So, any questions on this? All right, did I hear a motion that we would approve the panic alarms and the fees in the amount of, what's that total, Jesse?
It's $316 a quarter.
$316 a quarter?
$12.60.
For $1,264 for a year, and allow me to sign the contract. Motion made by Commissioner King. Do I hear a second? Second by Commissioner Kelly. Any questions or discussions? Jesse, thank you for doing that. I know that's been a sort of a complicated deal, so. If there's no other questions or comments, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, thank you, Jesse. The next item we have is Commissioner Precinct 1.
Between them and the panic buttons, they've been up for a long time. They're all like this. wanted to bring it up. I don't think Johnson can go and say good because they're gonna be one up with the road. Just like he was talking, sending 2 trucks to one project to do the same thing in one room at $1.81 a mile or something like that for mileage. And then it seems like nothing ever gets fixed. It's just an ongoing progression of one bill for $5,000. That's all I'm gonna say. Anybody else want to say something?
Well, I agree with you. I don't feel like the county's got good value in its contract with Johnson Controls. I feel like it'd be better served than with the small partners. Hopefully some of the local people.
Go out some of the local people, go back to the mechanical, outlaw can get a bid for.
I wouldn't be opposed to using Johnson Control on a case-by-case basis.
Now, you do, our contract with them is on the preventive maintenance stuff, and so, and what Jesse told us was, you know, he called to come and check the board, which would be part of that preventive maintenance, and then they sent 2 individuals and did some other work. We're yet to get a bill, but I'm pretty sure we're gonna get a bill. And so, so, are we wanting to take any action as far as to have Jim work on terminating the contract, or are we going to research and see if we can get something local to service?
Just to advise you, I did call Jim this morning because I knew that the information that he had provided to Harold was August 24th of 21. And that was doing a termination between effective October 28th. We're already past that, and we've also already paid our 2nd year. So when I spoke to Jim, that amount, either way, if we owe them money or they owe us money, the amount's going to change. So he would probably need time to review it again to get, because we have 45 days. We have to give 45-day notice. And so, just to advise you that that's what he would do. And then calculate whatever we need to calculate.
When I started all of this, and I got all that information from Jim, we had some things come up, and we put it on the back burner. I put it on the back burner for a while. And then one day, it was a 45-day notice. Had to give them before we terminated.
So are you making a motion to ask the court to allow Jim to begin that process?
Yes.
Sir, before y'all make that motion, from what I understand, you know, the Johnson Control Systems, that control panel, it's the program's called Medicis, if I remember correctly. There's a password for it, so if the court decides to terminate the contract, when I talked to the other air conditioning folks, said make sure that we get that password, because if the control panel's still there and we don't get the password, there's nothing we can do to work on that system.
We ran into that problem the last time. We ran into that problem the last time when Johnson Control, we terminated that contract. We had a problem for a while getting that code from Johnson Control.
And it had to do also with the software, because the software, all of that is controlled by the software on the computer. And that was the issue before.
Well, like I said, we're not announcing that we're terminating, we're just going to ask Jim to review and start the process. So, is that your motion?
Yes.
All right, do I hear a second? Second by Commissioner Hale. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? And your second item?
Second item is the interlocal agreement between Hale County and the city of Sarasota for the use of the land left from the Army Minor Center. W.H. Johnson, who is the mayor of Hale Center, contacted me a couple of weeks ago. They need to borrow that man to work on the windmill in the city square over at Hale Center, and I told them we needed to have Jim write up this interlocal agreement, so that's what that's about. So we'll have to have the judge sign and then send it to the city of Hale Center and have W.H. Johnson, the mayor, sign.
So Jim's working on the agreement,
That's all
or
right.
Jim has the agreement, okay? So, you putting that in the form of a motion? All right. Have a motion, that we enter into an interlocal agreement between Hale County and the city of Hale Center over the use of the county-owned man lift for them to work on the windmill there in the city. Got your second?
I'll say.
Second by Commissioner Daniel. Also allow me to sign the agreement. All right. Any other questions? If not, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed? And then our last item on the agenda today, we heard from Carla and the gentleman from the Veterans, or Military Veteran Peer Network on Friday as to discussions as to him having an office with Carla, and so that the services that they can provide to their clients are more readily accessible and more centralized. We heard from a gentleman that come and gave some testimony as to, Mr. Pierce, a gentleman come and talk to us about how he uses the services and how the combination of the two services has affected his life and his well-being. So I believe what their question is if we would allow Mr. Pierce to maintain an office here at the ambulance.
And also, they did explain, Friday, that he just needs an office space, he doesn't need, any phones.
Yes.
And the county will furnish him.
And he would, now my understanding, Mr. Pierce, you'd still have an office over at your other facility?
Yes, sir, that would be correct.
Okay, and that you travel quite a bit, so it's not like you would be stationed here 5 days a week, but just as you're around and need to be here.
Yes, sir, it'd be a couple times a week.
Okay. And so, would you put that in the form of a motion that you would approve that, and that he would only have the office space, there's really no other expense in the county?
I would make that motion.
All right. Have a motion, do I hear a second?
I'll say.
Second by Commissioner Daniel. Any other discussion or questions of Carla or Mr. Pierce? If not, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed? All right. Well, thank y'all for your patience and bearing with us this morning. We stand adjourned at 10:39. Thank you.
Yes.
Right.
Who's ordering lunch?